ColbyPlus.com. Scott Bass is with us today. And good news. I just checked their website. Tariff pricing is not in place. They've got inventory pre-tariff if you want to go grab wetsuits for a fair price. Mhm.
Yeah, the tariffs are coming and going. Nobody knows.
Nobody
Hey,
knows, but pricing is good right now. So stock up.
I swear to God, I was going through my suits yesterday, unpacking from our trip and putting away all my stuff and whatnot. And I got my Colby Pluses all geared up because for the Peru trip, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the one I'm bringing to Peru in August. I think the water gets like around Southern California, like between 60 and 62. So I've got that my new one. I've got a couple Colby Pluses, but I got the new super buttery one with the gray outside skin. But anyway, I was like, yeah, this is the one for Peru.
Keep it nice and unused until Peru, so it's fresh.
And I'm stoked that there's no tariff pricing on Colby Plus. So you can go there right now, order yourself a suit. I don't know what they've got on there. I haven't been on his website and Rob's website in a while, but I always like buying full suits beef, like when the price is right, so to speak, like they're about to bring in new stuff and there's probably there's always good pricing on Colby Plus. That's the thing, like that's the value, right? An excellent top quality premium wetsuit, not, you know, some like Costco price point suit. This is a suit that's the top of the line Yamamoto butter. I mean, Yamamoto rubber and butter. It's like
Yep.
lobster or sourdough. It's a way to get butter into your system. Colby
Y-
Plus.
Yamamoto butter and grass-fed rubber at Colby
Yes.
Plus. Yeah, like 300 bucks is basically the price for premium wetsuit at this point. So, like I said, they might get more expensive with tariffs, but right now, stock up for next season and beyond. ColbyPlus.com. And then, of course, Real Water Sports, always, forever, our beloved retail partner, Scott.
Yeah. Look, it is the season. There's tons of south swell in the water. There's storms seemingly everywhere. We're getting late season North Pacific energy. And this is the time to be thinking about stocking, getting your needs for your surf trip. We've got spring break. People are going places, and I love kind of getting all my little knickknacks, getting some new NVS fins, getting a couple of leashes. You may need a board bag. I love traveling with just one board, so like a day bag. If
Yeah.
you have like a 6'2", get a 6'6" day bag and just, wrap your board in some pool toys and maybe some cardboard on each side, and you'd be surprised. The luggage handlers are going to handle board bags that are small and light a lot better than these big heavy things. Those big heavy things, they just throw them and they're stepping on them. And if you have a nice light thing, they're like, oh, it's a nice little dainty thing. Let's cherish it.
That's decent advice, Scott. Well done. So yeah, go grab all the accessories and of course surfboards as well at realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy, David, welcome. It is Spit. It is the Spit podcast. We talk all things surf here. Scott Bass, David Lee Scales. It is Thursday, April 10th. As we speak to each other, David, the WSL event is on the round of 32 at Surf City, El Salvador. We got kind of a big show. I've got a Who Said That? I've got some Olympic denial, a must see moment, some information regarding sand movement in Australia, and I have a Duke as well.
Excellent. Well done. Well, regarding the El Salvador event that's in the water right now, Matt McGillivray is in the water. He was one of the dudes in the helicopter who came to visit us.
Yeah, that's sort of blown up a little bit, huh, on social media, the helicopter landing and visiting, and those guys did land in some, I guess, 60s era sort of Vietnam U.S. Huey helicopter that eventually made its way to El Salvador via the Iran-Contra deal in the 80s with President Reagan and Oliver North. And yeah, we got to see that thing land and pro surfers spill out of it and find their way up to our hotel and they waxed up. They got their gear together. They suited up. They walked down the stairs, and the wind went hard on shore. Like the secret to that story that you don't see is it was complete crap when they paddled out. Everyone left. It was probably 15 to 18 miles per hour onshore white caps, just torn to shreds. And the irony is when they landed, it was offshore and perfect.
And
But
then
within,
they took a break and got breakfast at that point.
yeah, they took a break, got breakfast. The wind went crap. And I surfed a little. Liam O'Brien was out there, super nice guy. We had a little rap together. And I asked him, I go, hey, man, do you feel pressure when you paddle out with a bunch of like basically randos such as myself and you're a WSL pro surfer? Do you feel like all eyes are on you? And he just looked at me and goes, mate, no pressure. He did not give a crap about, and he was super cool. Like they were all really chill. He sat on the inside. He just let everyone get their waves, and then he would turn when it was his turn. It wasn't like there was some, sort of peacock chest and tail feathers sticking out, and he was paddling past everyone with an attitude. My experience, and this is generally my experience, is that pro surfers are very considerate.
Yeah.
I think back in the day when I was a youngster, I can remember a couple of guys, Tom Carroll at Blacks. He was pretty much just brutally burn anybody. And I mean, Tom, if you know Tom, he would laugh and go, "Yeah, I probably did do that." But it seems like these days I think they've got more of a manager that's kind of going, "Hey, man, you're being watched everywhere, so don't blow it."
Totally. Let me ask you, when you saw that scenario unfolding, um, I guess for the record, for those who haven't been tracking our lives week in and week out,
Where have you been?
you and I were in El Salvador last week on a listener trip. You, myself, 18 of our now closest friends. They were strangers before we got there. And so we're at this resort, Hotel Los Mangos at Punta Mango, and it's pretty isolated. It's not exclusively at the resort, it's exclusively us, but then there's a couple little spots around. So once you're in the lineup, there are other people there. I'd say half the crowd is other people. Um, so my question to you is going to be, how do you feel when you see a helicopter show up and pros get out and you know they're going to surf the spot that we've been surfing for a week? Are you A, excited to watch professional surf, or B, bummed that there's great surfers who are going to be taking waves?
Kind of a combination of mostly B, though. I mean, I don't even care if they're pro surfers. If a helicopter lands at a yeah, more or less remote location and surfers pile out of it, I don't care if they're pros or whoever. But that sort of speaks to a bit of the surfers are the worst. Like the question is, why am I disappointed, or why would we be disappointed as surfers if a helicopter lands and a bunch of pro surfers pile out? And the reason is I'm afraid that I'm not going to catch as many waves.
Yeah.
So it's this fear that's driving everything, my decisions, the way I feel, my attitudes. And that's a huge problem for me. Um, and as soon as my attitude changes to, oh, isn't this cool? Isn't this a unique experience? I get to surf with professionals. I get to see these guys live in front of me, watch them surf, watch their whole mojo. And so the answer is, at first, I have fear-based insecurity that you either have something of mine or you're going to take something of mine. And then when I basically kind of try to pull back from it and excavate where that fear is coming from, I realize that I need to be in control of my attitudes. And a good attitude with a smile is going to go a long ways. And yeah, so sorry.
Yeah,
Does that answer your question?
it does. I went through the same range. I think that's normal, but it's easy for us to say in that scenario. I even heard some people say,
It was me. I think
"Our
if you heard my voice on the video on my, is that what you're referring to?
no, I wasn't
Oh, I'm
referring to
sorry to
that.
interrupt. But
No,
I
it's
even
okay.
said, oh, it looks like they're coming to invade our spot.
So
And
our even using that word our, oh, it's our what now they're in our pool? Oh, now they're using our restaurant. And it's like, look, we did have every room in that resort, but we didn't pay a premium to have the resort just for ourselves. You know what I mean? And the resort is entitled to sell another breakfast or two to try to make a little bit of extra money. And by the way, you and I never used the pool until sunset hours. So the pool was wide open all day, every day. So it is a very funny mentality to have, to feel like any of that stuff is ours, or even our wave is even worse because that's the public. But thankfully I had already surfed that morning. So I was getting out of the water anyways. So I kind of took it in stride and was happy just to have the experience of them there. But it definitely uh, elicited some emotions.
Yeah, and and you sort of touched on it too. Like, I can't speak for all of our guests, our new friends, but I mean, I'm surfing for maybe an hour and a half
Yeah.
the entire day. Like I'm not having 2 4-hour sessions and fighting for every scrap that comes my way. So yeah, you nailed it.
Well, we owe big thanks to Waterways. They make our job just way too easy. Waterwaystravel.com for any and all of your surf travel needs. I mean, we did nothing. We were technically the hosts of the trip, but we did less than I've ever done in a host role before. It's because Waterways handles everything. So use them.
And I'd like to quickly just shout out, how much fun it was to meet everybody. So Calais, Brian, uh, Isha, Henry, Cara, Michael, Chris, Mitch, Scott, and Alice. Um, who am I missing?
I don't know. You did a good job, but there might be one or two.
No,
Will Stone
Will,
Cipher,
Will. So
Greg.
Greg from Texas.
How could I forget Greg?
Yeah. Don't want to forget
Um,
anyone here. I should have written the list down.
I know. I feel like we might be forgetting one or two. Um,
But
yeah, Chris. Yeah. Okay. Phenomenal group.
anyway, good group of folks. What a blessing to be able to meet new friends and have new friends. I was thinking about this morning. I wanted to send out a thing on our WhatsApp chat, just saying, "Hey, thank you so much."
Do
Because
you
as I
even
reflect on the trip with my wife, it was just so neat to get to hang out with such intelligent and fun, like-minded people.
do you even open the WhatsApp group chat?
I mean, I haven't since we returned. Why? What's going on in there?
Well, class. This is so on on brand.
Am I
You,
selfish?
no, but you saying, "Oh, I want to send out a sweet message." Yeah, get on there. Yesterday, everybody's sending sweet messages back and forth. Chris wrote an entire poem, like 10 stanza poem with a little section for each of us about our surfing and our contributions and everything.
Oh,
He's like really well written too.
oh
Uh,
man. Okay,
so
I apologize. I got to get on the WhatsApp. I was literally going to get on it this morning, like I said, and send out little hey, thank you to everybody. But
it's
okay,
already there.
okay,
Is it just you don't have the notifications turned on, or do you
that's
see
what it
them?
is. I don't
Oh,
have
okay.
notifications for WhatsApp. I need to do that. I'll do that.
Well, the group from last year is still messaging on the group chat. So long, friendships have been maintained.
I did a podcast yesterday with my friend Nick Ferrara from Rome Surfboards, and ends up he's going to Peru with us. And we were talking about boards that he's building for the trip to go to just to Chicama.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Um, and then what was I going to tell you?
the group chat, the
Something
group,
about the
our
group chat.
friends.
Yes, something about the
People are
friends.
going on there and they're chiming in and making poetry. Poetry's being created.
Eh, that's all. It'll come to me, I'm sure.
I'm going to trademark my song that I've written.
Do you want to share it with everybody here?
No, it's not. It's still workshopped, but I feel
Well,
like
how about you give them the premise at least?
well, the premise is well, the title of the song is I've got a first world problem in a third world country.
And what inspired the song? And are you a
I wasn't
songwriter?
I wasn't even there for the inspiration. I think Cara had to move her chair because on by the pool because she was getting too much sun. She kept having to move her chair into the shade. And somebody said, that's a first world problem in a third world country. And bingo, I think it was Greg, goes, that sounds like a song. And then we spoke about it at dinner, and I broke out my phone and started writing verses and a chorus. And I think it's going to go to that Georgia Satellite song. Don't give me your own line and keep your hands to yourself. I think that's
Gotcha.
kind of the cadence and the pacing of the song.
Gotcha. So among the verses in the song, um, we were just workshopping stuff like you got too much massage oil on your body, so you're slipping off your surfboard deck. Your Wi-Fi is too spotty to do your Zoom podcast, stuff like that.
Okay, now I'm going to break out a verse here for you. Okay, I'm
Okay. Yeah,
looking in my.
this is what the people want.
Okay, here's the song. A night out in San Salvador, and she smelled tropical. Rolling in the hammock, the passion was quite logical. Days turned to weeks, and we were inseparable, but a visit to the pharmacia and the romance was irreparable. Hot went to
Ooh.
cold, a line turned blue, an obvious contrati, and that's when I knew I've got a first world problem in a third world country. That's the first verse. So
What's a
I don't even know if that
contratti?
conveys. Do you think that's too behind the curtain, or does that problem? Do you understand that he got a girl pregnant in San Salvador and she's pissed?
Yeah, I got the point, but also that's just a regular problem in any country. That's not
That's true.
that's
That's true.
that's not like a like
Yeah, but
first world and the third world. He's a first worlder in a third world, and so now it presents a unique problem. But
this is a
that
good point.
pregnancy,
This
yes,
is why we workshop, because now
yes,
I need to convey that. Yeah,
it still works.
yeah.
What's a contratti?
Contrati is a Spanish word for a mishap or a misstep,
Mm,
which would be the case when you get somebody pregnant without planning for it, and it's really just a sort of a summer romance, a tryst you weren't expecting to, and that's where the problem I guess
gotcha,
is.
gotcha. I remembered what thought I had lost 3 minutes ago. Is that your photo is being used on Stab Magazine's article about the helicopter landing?
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
I didn't make photos. I used, I think I sent him video, but yeah, maybe I sent him a photo. Is it a
Uh,
lineup shot or something?
yeah, it's a lineup shot from the restaurant.
But did they give me credit? Is that how you know it's mine?
Yeah, because it says at the bottom at Boardroom Show.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do you get paid for that?
Nah, I don't need to get paid for it. I mean, that would be silly. I'm glad I can help. Sam's a good
Good,
man.
good, good, good. Awesome. Well, speaking of El Salvador, like we said, the events in the water right now, they're running the round of 32 for the men. The conditions are clean, but the swell really has not shown up yet. It's pretty meager.
You know what? I tell you what, clean conditions is kind of all we should hope for as end users, because it can be this size and blown out and they'd be running it. You know what I mean? So I'm glad the morning conditions are good. Griffin is ripping. I'm sure you're watching the aerials he's doing, pretty much next level.
Well,
Uh,
so Griff obviously is having a rough start to the year. It's interesting to watch him now because he is surfing incredibly well and he still might lose this heat. Matt McGillivray just needed a score with less than a minute left and it looks like he got it. So I don't know how this shakes out yet because we're still waiting for the scores to drop. But if Griff loses again, as we've said in previous events this year, it's not really his fault. He's ripping.
I think you're ahead of me.
Yeah, I've got 3 seconds left.
Uh,
So,
okay.
so I'm ahead of you. Anyways, we'll see how it all goes. Griff, keep your chin up if you lose this heat. Sorry to see it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'm just getting my YouTube back here.
you've got Felipe, right?
I do.
Okay, cool.
As my survival pick. Yeah.
Okay, I've got Leonardo Fioravanti.
So refresh me. Did Matthew get through that heat? And
It's
Did Griff lose?
we're still waiting for scores to drop. Matt needs a 6.69, and I mean, he surfed a wave really well and landed an air reverse at the end, so it looks to me like he's going to get it. But the scores haven't dropped yet, so
Wow. If Griffin doesn't get through this, I mean,
that's
that's
what
a
I was saying.
I know, and I mean, I got what you're saying, but I was behind on my feed here, and so I was like, how do you have only 3 seconds left?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then I went to change it, and I got all discombobulated, and I see now that they're waiting for scores. There's an anxious look on Griffin's face. He's talking to the photographer, and he's going,
Do you
"What
know?
happened?"
Do you
And
know
Matt,
who Felipe drew in this round for you? Who are you up
no,
against?
no.
Okay. I've got okay, score came in. He got it. Matt McGillivray got it. He got a
Oh my God.
6.93. Griffin is out again. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God.
What an upset for Survival League, too.
And just for his entire season, like
Shocker.
he's had shockers, and we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, and even last week. He's surfing great. It's not like he's doing anything wrong.
No.
That aerial he did where he landed in the flats, those are ankle breakers, man.
Well, and even just comparing his surfing to Matt McGillivray, he's the better surfer. I'm watching both of them surf. I'm going, man, Griff is sharper. He's faster. He's more spry. But his two waves aren't as good as Matt's two waves. So
Griffin's surfing like a world champion. You
I
know what I
know.
mean? Like
And he's
if you were to
losing.
go, yeah, that's the world champ, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And he's losing. So real big bummer for Griff. He's going to have to really, really maintain some steely mindedness here.
But more
So
importantly, that is a huge survival league shocker. There's a lot of people that said there's no way that Griffin's going to have 3 bad events in a row. And a lot of people, I believe, I don't know this, but I believe a lot of people put money on Griff.
4 bad events in a row now.
Yeah, right.
So, and my pick, just for the record, Leonardo Fioravanti drew Ryan Callanan. So I feel pretty good about that pick.
What about mine? Can you determine who Felipe goes against? I'm afraid to touch my stream and lose it again because I'm getting like old man itis with technology. You know what I mean? I got anxiety.
It sounded more like a urination problem. I'm afraid to touch my stream because it might stop.
You know, my urination is a lot like my thought process. A stream will come along and then it'll start to kind of dribble and
Yep.
dribble and dribble. And I'm like, oh, my stream of thought is over. And then a whole new stream comes out.
And that was the joke. Um,
What a bad joke.
okay. I'm looking Felipe. Oh,
Yeah.
Al Cleland Jr.
Oh, whoa. That's one of my faves. So
Yeah, but that's an easy win for Felipe for sure.
we'll see. We shall see.
We will see.
David, I have a who said that. And this is going to be afterwards. Well, let me just start. Okay, David, you ready? Who said that? This is the segment, by the way. This is a segment where we're going to eventually maybe have some music leading into this segment.
Mitch, DJC, we'd get on that.
Yeah.
You want me to sing it?
I mean, sure.
Who said that? Who? I really want to know who said that.
You might actually have a singing voice. I think you might get that from your dad, maybe. You don't want me to sing it. That's for damn. Okay, so who said that? And I quote, "The most difficult maneuver in surfing today, the 3-dimensional 360-degree turn, was surely performed by ancient surfers of the Kingdom of Hawaii." Who said that, David? Was it 1, Dr. Gary Filosa, 2, Fred Hemmings, 3, Dr. Mark Renneker, or 4, Dave Parmenter?
I mean, why would you use Dr. Gary Filosa if it wasn't him? That's such a... I'm going to go option A.
Yeah, the context was in the answers. So good job. You figured it out because there wasn't much there other than the answers to determine who it might be. Yeah, right. Dr. Gary Filosa. Do you know who this person is, David?
No, that's why you would never put that name in there.
Okay, so I'm going to read quite a bit from the Encyclopedia of Surfing about this quite interesting human that surfers should know about, or maybe not. Dr. Gary Filosa, erratic, fraudulent, high determined competition promoter and organizer. He's the founder in 1976 of both the American Surfing Association and the International Amateur Surfing Federation, and author of the error-riddled Surfer's Almanac.
Amazing.
Filosa spent decades pretending to be the overlord of organized surfing. Australia's Surfing Life magazine wrote in 2001. He constructed a kind of parallel universe in which he became the source of all surf knowledge and wisdom, and he did a damn good job of it too. He was born in 31, and he had a short-lived launch of a magazine called Rock and Roll Roundup. But in the mid-1960s, Filosa returned to college and received a PhD in psychology from the University of the Americas in Mexico City. In 1966, he was elected Student Association president. Filosa came to the attention of the surfing world in 1975 after writing a letter to Surfer magazine complaining about how the magazine used the female gender, our mother ocean, when describing the sea and the surf. After Surfer magazine flippantly replied by publishing a curvaceous photo of a breaking wave, Filosa threatened a lawsuit, and for nearly 10 years he continued to feud with the surf media, along with many of surfing's most respected figures. How and why a non-surfing man in his mid-40s decided to focus his attention on the sport remains unknown. The point is that he did do this, writer Russ Kalish noted, and with great fervor that anyone could, and with greater fervor than anyone could have imagined. In 1976, Filosa launched a defamatory letter campaign against Orange County surfing matriarch Nancy Caton after she refused to sell Filosa her Canvas by Caton surfwear business. It would not be difficult to crush an old lady, he wrote to surf photographer Leroy Granis. That same year, 76, Filosa introduced both the ASA, a school-based amateur competition organization, and the IASF. It was Filosa's great dream to get surfing in the Olympic Games, and while the ASA was viable for just a short period in the mid to late 70s, the IASF was a little more than a shell organization. He was nonetheless able to establish communication with both the Amateur Athletic Union and the International Olympic Committee, and temporarily positioned himself as the head of World Amateur Surfing. In an editorial published in a 1977 issue of Surf magazine, a Florida magazine startup, Filosa wrote that the ASA was now the officially recognized governing authority for amateur surfing throughout the globe in America, and that surfing would likely be an Olympic sport by 1984. The Surfer's Almanac, which is this book that he wrote in part in effort to convince officials outside of the surfing world that he, Filosa, was actually the authority of the sport. Well, that book was filled with errors. First Point Malibu, for example, he renamed Simmons Point, and a wetsuit he called a Bradner. Finally, in 1977, establishment figures from within surfing, including those in the media competition and surfwear, together were able to convince the AAU and the International Olympic Committee officials that Filosa was a fraud. The ASA, meanwhile, was made irrelevant after the 1978 founding of the National Scholastic Surfing Association. Filosa's place in the sport was reduced even further. And it didn't help him that in 1983, former world surfing champion Fred Hemmings won a $36,000 judgment against Filosa after Filosa sent a vilifying letter to Fred Hemmings to the Federal Communications Commission in an attempt to bring Hemmings down from his position as head of the IPS World Tour. So there you go. Long-winded insight into this interesting, fraudulent, erratic character, Dr. Gary Filosa, who tried to kind of take over amateur surfing at one point.
How weird is that? I've never heard this story, and it is bizarre as could be, because to what end? What are you going to get out of being the authority on this one thing? Like, there's no money in it. There's very little power in it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he put all those efforts into doing something profitable?
Sounds like he was a scammer. I mean, he was a non-surfer. We don't know
Yeah,
if he was a regular foot or a goofy foot. I think at the end of the day, this is about greed. I mean,
but
if you look
there's
at
no money to be made. Like,
well, if you look at the landscape now, for instance, an example of this might be, hey, there's no amateur international pickleball thing. There probably is, but
yeah,
you would find a sort of random fringe sport and try to own it through like bureaucracy of the Olympic Committee and the international federations, and then just go, I'm the guy in charge. And then all of a sudden you're in with the Olympics. Once you're in with the Olympics, doors open to you to all sorts of it's a power grab. And then
it's
that hopefully that power probably leads to fiscal upside.
what a ill-conceived plan, though. I mean, like, there's not that much power and there's not that much fiscal upside on the back end. So he could have robbed 22 banks in that amount of time with less energy. You know what I mean? Like, less
Yeah.
brain power, less energy, and netted some actual profit. That's just bizarre, but it's probably more kind of an insight into his mental ineptitude or whatever.
I mean, how is it that he he wrote a defamatory letter campaign because Nancy Caton wouldn't sell him Canvas by Caton
I know.
surfer. And I think that's because of the Pro-Am, the Canvas by Caton Pro-Am, that they had at Huntington in the late 70s, in the mid to late 70s, because that was a quote Pro-Am. And his whole
Yeah.
thing was you have to separate professional from amateur. If you are an amateur surfing in a quote Pro-Am, you are no longer an amateur, you're a like he was trying to set up all these guidelines as he made his way through the various International Olympic Committee policies.
Okay. Well, he'd be about 95 now. I wonder if he's still alive and
He is dead.
if
He
he
is
wants to do a
dead.
Surf Splendor interview.
He is dead. He died in Iowa City at the age of 81 in Iowa. That says a lot.
Okay.
Not that there's anything wrong
I was
with
gonna say, what's wrong with Iowa? Geez.
Nothing's wrong with Iowa, but I mean, maybe he had family there, but I'm just saying that the suggestion that I'm making is that if you're a surfer, you're probably going to die near the coast, but that is really, as I say this, I feel like I'm putting my foot in my mouth. I'm going to just go ahead and walk that back for some reason, because surfers can die anywhere and you don't lose your status as a surfer. I'll just shut up.
Well, we love all of our Iowa fans. We didn't forget about you. That does kind of segue though into longboarding in the Olympics this year.
Please.
Or this story.
Yeah, well, go ahead then. Do you have it or do I have it?
You have it. But the official headline is that longboarding is officially denied from Olympic consideration.
Yeah, they were trying to get the longboards for the Los Angeles 28 Olympics, and IOC said no, and they also said no to more surfers in the actual shortboard part of the competition, which Fernando Aguirre, the ISA president, has spun in a positive way, which he's good at doing, which you should do if you're going to put out PR, which is, you know what? Okay, we've been dealt this hand, and we're going to move forward to Brisbane in 32, Brisbane Olympics. And we'll try to get to the committee to see things our way in the coming years, and maybe that will change. Maybe longboarding will be in the 32 Olympics. It's got to be a bummer for the top guys, the Stephen Sawyers, those guys. Who's the longboard guy?
Kai Salas.
Kai Salas, the guy. I can't believe I can't remember his name. Married to Nat Young's daughter. Big, tall, lanky, regular foot, great surfer.
Big, tall, right?
You don't know either. This is bad. We just lost some street cred.
I don't know. I don't know.
Him.
I don't know the relationship status of all of those guys, but
he was a world champ. Taylor Jensen.
Skinner.
Right. Thank you, yeah. Taylor Jensen.
So I saw this headline and I thought, good riddance. Longboarding, we don't need competitive longboarding, to be perfectly honest. I love all these guys too, and I want them to make as much money and as good of a living as they can off their immense talent. But the older I get, the less, I don't know, connection I see between surfing as an expression and an art form and judging it competitively. And longboarding is kind of the ultimate expression of that in my mind, where it just, those two things shouldn't go together. I could make the argument again as well against competitive shortboarding, but there is more, I think. It is easier to kind of objectively score competitive shortboarding than it is longboarding. Longboarding should be freedom of expression.
It's interesting, right? Because I kind of initially I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I sense that the average, like the guy in Iowa, for instance, that's watching the Olympics, if it's held at Malibu because we're in Los Angeles and the broadcasters say, hey, the key here is getting on the nose, you'll see them walk to the nose of the surfboard and hang their 10. And the longer they hang those 10 toes over, the better the score they're going to get. Me, the guy in Iowa, was like, oh, I get it. They're trying to walk that board up and they hang out on the nose and they get a long one and they're going to do good. I can follow this, as opposed to, guys doing 360 blunt nose tweak airs. The guy in Iowa was like, I think I'm going to watch the summertime version of ice skating or whatever else they have in the Olympic flavor.
Well, I'm already bored just by hearing you explain what the criteria is. And secondly, if you are creating an objective criteria that is like maximum amount of time on the nose, then you're undermining what should be
Oh,
done
well,
on a
we've
longboard.
already undermined it. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
beyond it. I'm agreeing that it's been undermined. Now, as the producer of the event, I'm trying to get
yeah,
people around the world to understand it.
yeah. I think it's a forced fit, so I'm
Oh
okay
yeah,
with it not getting accepted into the
yeah.
Olympics. Now, what's going on with our WCT event at Snapper, Scott?
Well, man, look, that Hurricane Alfred, was it Albert or Alfred?
I think it was Alfred.
Alfred moved through the Gold Coast, and I'm not sure if it was a direct hit on the Coolangatta area or not, but regardless, it was a big enough storm that it moved all of the sand off of Snapper Rock. There is no sand. There's actually guys going left at Snapper Rock. I saw on Stab. Like there's a left sandbar right there at Marley's that goes into the groin. And so they're moving the event. There will be no CT event. And that's in like, I want to say that's in about 12 days or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's April.
And so they have decided, and wisely so, I would suggest, to move the event to Burleigh Heads, which has a history of world class competitions. Of course, the first man on man event created by Peter Druin at Burleigh Heads when we had the IPS. And I believe Mark Richards won that event, the very first man on man event. It might have been him versus Dane Kealoha in the finals, but
Wow.
maybe it was Michael Peter. I don't know. You know what? I could be wrong. Maybe it was. I'm pretty sure MR won the first man on man event. However, let me throw a caveat out here to you, David, and your East Coast friends like Mez and those guys. They will tell you, and in fact, I think Matt Warshaw will back us up, that the very first man on man event, professional surfing event, actually happened on the East Coast. Somewhere, it might have been Florida, it might have been Virginia Beach, but there was a man on man event, professional, where cash was given to the winners. And so there's this claim that the first man on man pro event was in Australia, and there are others that have receipts, proof that the first man on man event, professional event, was actually held in Florida. So there you go. Let's stir it up. Let's stir the pot up. I'd like to hear, I want to hear, let's hear from Fred Hemmings. Let's hear from some angry people. Not angry, but people that are going to set the record straight.
Let's add this to the list of things we'll never get to the bottom of because we'll forget before we get into next week's show.
I've never forgotten this. I think it's a fascinating.
No. You have said this. I'm just saying I forget to make a note of like we need to look into this, and then next week we'll come back to it. We should be.
This is where the listeners. We need the listeners to like do a little research for it.
So I got a DM from a guy who also said the bank at Burleigh has been disjointed for years. Presumably, there's a guy who surfs there regularly. And he said, whilst faring better than Snapper in the storm, it's still basically a glorified beach break at present. Unless we see a solid east or southeast swell during the period, then I'm thinking the WSL curse continues. The Australian board riders battle is on at Burleigh this weekend with 3 to 4 foot east swell and favorable wind. It'll be a pretty good showing, and might be an indicator of what the comp might look like. So even though they're going to go to Burleigh, it's not like they're going to get great surf probably, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's true. Like, Burleigh doesn't look like, it did back. Burleigh, I mean, I don't know much about it. I'm not an expert, but Burleigh was sort of like the spot when you went to the Gold Coast. And then all of a sudden that Tweed River sand replenishment thing just made Snapper Rocks. Snapper Rocks wasn't like a very good wave until that sand replenishment thing. You would surf Greenmount. Greenmount had a bank, and then you would go to Kira, and then you go to Burleigh. Snapper Rocks was kind of just like I said, it wasn't what it has become,
Yeah. By the way, in the water right now, Marco Mignot versus Rio Waida. I got to say, Marco Mignot has been really impressive this season. We did not identify him as a rookie to watch or anything. Like we weren't that excited, but he has continually impressed me. And his very first wave in this heat, I don't know if you saw it. I think you were reading your thing about Dr. Filosa. Yeah, you were reading the Dr. Filosa thing. He did the most massive frontside air. The type that where they're launching it, you're like, oh, this has got to be a throwaway because he's going so high and fast. Crazy spin and landed it. And even when he was landing, I'm like, he's going to eat it because that was way too big. And then he fully stomped it, greased it, and then followed it up with a backup score. His surfing kind of reminds me, not his style, but it reminds me of Matt Wilkinson back in the day when Matt started winning events, where it's really on edge. It's like teetering on edge of disaster, where he throws everything at a particular turn. And it's exciting to see because you think that he's probably going to fall and then he lands. Um, so I'm excited. I'm excited for Marco.
Hey, I got to take a quick break. And you know what? We're going to be come back. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this man-on-man event
Okay.
drama. Hey, we're back. Welcome back to the podcast. I think it was the Florida Pro was the first man-on-man, but I could be wrong. Then we're going to continue to do research. And what have you got for me, David?
I was going to mention a couple of weeks ago, I was reading that 25 most important influential surfers of all time from the big issue with Duke on the
Yeah.
cover. And we only got
Yes.
through the top 10. Do you want to hear some of the back 15?
Yes.
Number 11, Tom Curran.
He should be number one.
It ages really well. Like to think they made that call in 2000 and now it's kind of more relevant or more, I don't know, relevant than it was even then because he's still at his top level.
Well, you got to understand too. I know you do, and I think many listeners do too. Is that Tom Curran was the golden child? Like he was the guy that brought California surfing out of the black wetsuit, whiteboard, local stuff. And Tom Curran was the thing that the entire Southern California surf industry kind of looked towards to drive the sport competitively. He surfed incredibly. His style was next level. He was everything, the son of a legend, Pat Curran. And it was at this time when competitive surfing was starting to really boom. And so Tom Curran was more than a great surfer. He was the figurehead, even if he didn't realize it at the time, of the growth of particularly California competitive surfing, but in the bigger vein, the commercial success of surfing.
Totally. Number 12, Mickey Dora.
11 and 12.
I'm a little surprised to see Dora at 12, but I think that his influence does permeate. Like the outlaw stereotype
Yeah.
is pervasive in surfing, and he is the kind of totem of that,
Yeah. In some ways, surfing culture never wants to lose that sort of outlaw, screw the system, screw it all, that Mickey Dora thing, which is a big part of Mickey Dora is like the original Surfers Are the Worst.
I know. Yeah. Well, number 13, Wayne Lynch.
Although I will say Gar Chapin his stepfather might have been the first angry surfer. But Wayne Lynch, 13. I hold Wayne Lynch in higher regard than Mickey Dora.
Me too. What are your thoughts on Wayne or why?
Love Wayne Lynch. He's great. He's a great human being. That's the number one thing is he's a wonderful human being, He's got a sense of humility. Obviously a great surfer. I spent a few days with Wayne here in California and it was a delight. And we talked about all sorts of very interesting things. Some of it surfing, a lot of it not, a lot of it health and holistic and just he puts out an energy. He's got a spirit that's just positive. And so, yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and reveal my must-see moment right now. Must-see moment presented by Trees Wax, the only petroleum-free performance surf wax at treeswax.com or conscientious local retailers. Wayne Lynch, Patagonia made a film about him in 2013. It's called Uncharted Waters. And I was just looking it up to see if you can get it for free. It looks like you can get it for free on Red Bull, depending where you are in the world. But in the US anyways, it's for free. And it's a 90-minute film, which is the story of surfing's messiah, Wayne Lynch.
Love it.
Yeah, a world away from California, the epicenter of surfing, was a kid who would alter the sport forever. Australian surfer Wayne Lynch, a counterculture icon, was a pioneer of the modern shortboard revolution. So definitely go and check that. I had a different must-see moment queued up, but as we were talking about Wayne, I was like, man, what was that great film that they made about him that for anybody who just discovered surfing in the last who knows how long and doesn't have a proper history on figures like this is a must-see watch.
There's so many great things about Wayne. One of them is, I think it was a Quicksilver movie, but they've got it. It ends with Wayne Lynch surfing some warm water, probably an Indonesian wave somewhere, and that song from the Little River Band is playing called.
Reminiscing.
Yeah, do you know the song?
Friday night, it was late. I was
No,
walking
no,
home.
no,
We
no, no,
walked
no,
out
no,
to the
not
gate.
that song. No, no, no. It's this song. I'll have to pull it up, but it's one of those things. It's sort of embedded. It's been ingrained in me, like that vision of Wayne with the dolphins. He's surfing and there's dolphins and it's blue and he's wearing his Quicksilvers, and it's just it's like say it's not Christopher Cross, but it's a Little River Band song. Anyway,
Mm.
and I'll also say this about Wayne. He was the first guy so we honored Wayne at the boardroom show a number of years ago. And he was the first guy that we honored where we had a VIP dinner. We invited friends of the show to have dinner with Wayne Lynch. And I was a little bit nervous, not because Wayne wasn't completely wonderful, but I just didn't know how it was going to go because it was my first time hosting this. And so these 8 people paid to have dinner with Wayne Lynch and have an intimate experience with Wayne Lynch. And Wayne totally delivered. He met everybody, he sat down at the table with them. I, of course, left, after I ate my meal and I had to leave. And from what I understand, he engaged them with stories and their questions and answered every question. And every guy that left that dinner just was so stoked and was basically like, sign me up for next year. Like, this was incredible. So Wayne really gave of himself a whole lot, and apparently did so in a very just Wayne Lynch, sincere way. Like, he enjoyed it as
Yeah.
much as they enjoyed it.
Yeah, good on him. Well, study up on Wayne Lynch, ladies and gents, and go watch that film. Number 14, Jack O'Neill.
Yeah, I mean, that makes tons of sense, right?
The,
Industry stalwart.
yeah, the influence aspect of this list is undeniable for Jack O'Neill. Number 15, Nat Young. Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you start to get into this place where you could move some of them up, some
Yeah,
of them down. So, like, Nat Young was, I mean, I'm sure in Australia, Nat Young was way higher on that list.
yeah, exactly. Um, Number 16, which could be moved up quite a bit, is Phil Edwards.
Yeah, Phil Edwards was the Tom Curran of surfing in the 60s. He was the guy. Um,
Phil, I mean, when we've talked about like who would you want to interview for the podcast, the interview podcast, Phil Edwards. He's still around. He's still going for daily walks in his Southern California neighborhood. I hear from people who get to see him regularly. That would be an interview.
I don't know. Maybe it would. I really can't speak to it, but I also know people that have told me that Phil doesn't really want to talk about surfing anymore. Like, that part of his life is way over. I
That's
think if you,
why that's why I've never gotten the interview or reached out to him because he's been clear about that.
yeah.
But if you could finally, some people as people age, sometimes they open up or crack open about something that I don't know, they hadn't
Yeah.
talked about for a period of time and that's when you want to get the interview actually.
So I found this song. You want to hear the song? This Little River Band song?
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to click it. I don't know if it's going to play. Tell me if you hear it,
It
okay?
not unless you hold your mic up to the speaker. All right. Scott is making that adjustment. I can't hear anything. Do you push
Yeah.
play?
Huh?
If there's one thing in my life that's missing, it's the time that I spend alone, sailing on the cool and bright clear water. Lots of those friendly people, they're showing me ways to go, but I never want to lose their inspiration. Time goes.
Cool change.
Cool change. That's right. Yeah, I do know the song, and it sounds like we have our outro song for today. Well done.
And so just imagine there's Wayne Lynch feeding dolphins in the little the little bay before he paddles out. They're like up there swimming with him. And of course they know it's Wayne. So the dolphins just come to Wayne Lynch naturally. And then Wayne's just surfing this insane left. I don't know where it is, but it's warm water and blue. And that song goes on, and like I'm getting a little tear in my ears right now. Like I'm getting a little kaflimped. Like that's one of those moments for me, and everybody has these, right? For some people, it's Endless Summer. A lot of people, it's Honk with Five Summer Stories.
Yeah.
Somebody like you, it's probably a momentum song, like a song from Taylor Steele.
Yeah.
But everyone has those moments, and that's one of those moments. I forget the movie. I wonder if it was Performers by Quicksilver. But anyway, Wayne Lynch, full legend. Try to find that sequence, David. It's really great.
For the record, it's verklempt. VER.
What do I always use some other word. What do I say?
I don't know what you said, but my wife
Verklempt.
mispronounces that word too, and I've never corrected her once because I'm like, it's not worth it. For you, I don't mind doing you a favor.
Verklempt. Okay, I appreciate that. As a pseudo wordsmith, I'm a fan of verklempt.
So the reminded me talking about Wayne Lynch feeding the dolphins. You were pulling a move that I always use Kern as the reference for pulling this move, which is at Punta Mango. No matter what anybody else is doing, you paddle 50 yards past them on the point to just go wait for a wave that nobody's ever seen before. And in the Kern stories, the best wave of the day shows up for them on a spot where nobody saw a wave break. What is your strategy when we're out there?
Well, I mean, there is a wave, obviously, that breaks up there, and it needs to be a little bit larger swell for the section where everyone's sitting and the peak that I was surfing to make the connection, right? So out there, you can't get suckered into a wave that you might catch. You have to wait for a wave that's actually going to catch you out there. If you wait for a wave that's going to peak up and basically catch you out there, you'll be able to haul ass and make the connection into where everyone else is catching way more waves. That's kind of not the secret. That's just, I just want to be away from everyone. I'm willing to wait for a big one rather than scramble with, 8 of my best friends for a smaller one.
So did you get the one that you were waiting for?
You tell me.
I'd say you got one of them per session.
Yeah.
Is that about accurate?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah, because I'm sitting out there in the lineup with you, and even our friends are like, where's Scott going? I haven't seen any waves break up there. And I'm like, well, yeah, you'll get like 5 that you do 1 turn on or 2 turns on, and then you have to kick out when it hits the rest of the point. But inevitably, at some point in the session, you get one that makes it all the way through, and then you just paddle, and then you never come back into the lineup at that point. And if we review the video footage, sure enough, there's the one that made it through. So it's working.
Yeah. On my birthday, that birthday session, I really lucked into quite a few, meaning, 2 or 3, maybe 4 all the way through.
Good. We'll stick with it. And it also helps spread out the crowd from what my strategy is. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Scott's doing. Go ask him. Go paddle over there and go with him.
Get the hell away from me.
Exactly.
Looks like Marco Mignon might have got a buzzer beater here. We're waiting for scores, but he got a final wave at the buzzer, and and he landed a sick. Are you watching it?
Yeah. He was winning this entire heat. And in the very dying minutes, Rio Waida took the lead. And then sure enough, Marco just stomped the craziest air on the first section. It was like a barreling offshore section. And he did a huge air reverse into it and then continued to complete the ride. So he only needs a mid-range 6-point score. And I would argue he got it based on that first turn alone. And then he closed it with another air reverse.
This guy's undoubtedly the rookie of the year. I mean, he is ripping.
Yeah, he's so exciting to watch.
Yeah.
So anyways, thanks for sharing your strategy.
Yes. Good luck with that.
Before we go, let's just acknowledge the Surfrider Foundation. The Surfrider Foundation, the ocean needs more friends. Become a member at surfrider.org. I've been working on a podcast project with the Surfrider Foundation that we are probably going to launch today, actually. Cool. And it's the Surfrider Podcast. So go out there and search for the Surfrider Podcast. If it's not available right now, it'll be available shortly, like within 24 hours. And we did a deep dive into the Imperial Beach pollution issue, which I can now speak about ad nauseum. And let me just say, It is the dirtiest beach in America. It's poisoning San Diego residents. Those are not overstatements. It's crazy. And it's becoming worse. Like because the federal government has not taken the problem seriously by declaring a state of emergency, as the mayor and other people have asked for, the problem's now spreading. And so it's moving north, migrating north. And it's not just in the Pacific, it's actually aerosolized from the river and is now contaminating with fumes. People are getting actually sick from it. But I mean, I have a brother-in-law who's a Navy SEAL who trains up there, and they're getting diarrhea and E. coli infections from the water from where they're training. So that's far north of Imperial Beach. So pretty crazy stuff.
It's unfortunate, and I think with where we're at now, unless there's a fiscal reason to make a change, unless there's money involved for with a positive net result, it doesn't seem like any politicians give a shit. No pun
Well,
intended.
there is absolutely economic consequence.
No, but
Property,
there isn't. There
yes,
isn't.
there are actually. Property values are plummeting precipitously.
No, but
Tourism,
my point is that the people that are in charge, if they're not going to make money on it, they don't care. I'm not saying there's not fiscal repercussions. Of course there is.
yeah,
Just even the tourism. And in San Diego County, I'm sure I know we're all up in arms, but
yeah.
until the big boss sees a way to make money, in fact, the president just denied, you know more about it than I do, but didn't the president just deny a grant
For what?
for the
For
Tijuana,
the
Tijuana River, um, Imperial Beach thing, the Coronado thing?
I'm not sure what the grant was or what he did or didn't deny there. I mean, they have already approved budgets for fixing the water sanitation plants, both on the Mexico side and the American side. But the problem's much more pervasive than just the plants themselves. But you're right. It is crazy that they can do 10 years or more worth of work to get this funding in place. And a new administration can come in and just chop it at the knees and just be like, nope,
I'm
we're
pretty
not
sure
doing that anymore.
that recently happened. I think the EPA, there was a grant, San Diego County had a grant. Again, I'm not super up on this, but I did read about something recently, like within the last week or so,
Yeah.
where they lost their EPA grant, which was,
Hmm.
a big chunk that they were dependent upon to continue to address this issue. And now those monies are gone.
Well, so interestingly, if this problem was happening in a more affluent community like La Jolla, it would have been solved instantly.
That's my point,
Um,
right?
yeah. And so
There's
this,
a
but
donor that gives don't money to the person in charge. He's going to do it. And if not, then you're out. Yeah.
so in addition to that, though, what I was going to say was when it was just an Imperial Beach problem, it seems like it was easy for people, meaning it's a border town with um, lower income families, basically. It was easy for people just to kind of like brush it aside and be like, not really our problem. Well, the problem has migrated. It's moved up to Coronado. It's going to end up in La Jolla. And so it becomes not only like while Imperial Beach was a black eye, maybe for San Diego County, the black eye is going to become San Diego County. Like people won't go visit Imperial Beach currently. If this continues to spread, people won't go visit San Diego, period. And so now is the time. And as the problem gets more pervasive, its containment is way more complex, way harder to reverse the effects. And this, by the way, isn't just sewage that's coming over from Mexico, it's industrial waste. Because of NAFTA, American businesses could go set up manufacturing in Baja, in Tijuana, manufacture with no trade or no taxes to ship that product back. So they have less labor cost, land cost is cheaper, and then of course they don't have the EPA regulation, all the regulatory bodies. So that's why all that industrial waste was going into the river and over back into America. And then they're able to ship the products over for free and sell them, and make more profit essentially. So now those things are potentially going to get taxed. So that business model is broken for them. But we're still dealing with the poison and the pollution as a result of it. So
Yeah.
the solutions are available, by the way. The solutions are already known. Like this is a fixable problem. It's just a matter of political will and then allocating enough resource, essentially.
Yeah.
By the way, Ethan Ewing's in the water right now, and goodness
Yes.
gracious, There's nothing better to watch than Ethan Ewing on a right point break. It's been said before, but I'll say it again.
Bang.
Remember it.
He's killing it.
I mean, he's gorgeous.
What a fun wave Punta Roca is. It's a little
Man.
more rippable than Punta Mango. Mango's more like point A to point B. Although
That's
I'm
the
sure these guys would be doing this at Mango, though. These guys are on such a next level that where we're racing it, they're racing it, but in the process of racing it, they're doing these crazy turns.
I mean, that's the problem with Mango is like you get some really fun waves. You think you had fun, and then you realize at the end of the day you haven't done a single turn.
I like waves like that. I don't that way, I shine when I go straight, bottom
Is
turns only.
isn't it true though?
It
It's kind
is.
of crazy. You kick out and or you go back and watch footage, you're like, I didn't do a single turn for like a full week.
Yeah.
And I got like really good rights all at a point break the entire time.
I was constantly working on my hand jive, like where can I put my hands so that it looks like I'm doing a turn?
So Kara was disappointed in her photos or videos because she had like a limp wrist. She's like, what am I doing? What is that? And I'm like, you know what? Let me pull up Tom Curran. And he's just got it bent back like that all the time. He's in the tube like that. He's doing a big carve like that. It's just a simple little adjustment of the wrist makes
Yes.
all the difference in style.
Yes. I too suffer from what Kara's suffering from, which is, I guess we'll call it limp wrist syndrome, LWS. I swear, if you
Go
look
see.
at photos of me and you look at the Cardiff Kooks statue, there's a lot of similarities. Like
Yeah.
it's uncanny. It's uncanny.
Well, they do make medication for LWS, so you can
Yeah.
consult with your doctor. Be
Wow.
fair warned of side effects.
Yes.
May include dribbly urination.
Holy mackerel, we're going down a whole nother. Look, David, we've said a lot. Oh, wait, I have a Duke.
Hit me with it.
My Duke is, I'm trying to remember. Did I write it down? Oh God. Let's see. I'm looking through my notes here.
While you're looking for your Duke, I will just state it's not my must-see moment, but go watch Stab Magazine's best surfing I've ever seen with Rick Raffici. Uh, he's a cinematographer, surf cinematographer. He's been doing it for 30 years probably, and he talks about the session that he filmed with Taj Burrow, um, the what do they call it? The View of the Gods or something like that, where they hired a helicopter and they shot high quality imagery out of the helicopter of Taj surfing that perfect little right reef break with the offshore wind. Taj at the peak of his game. Taj is somebody who we don't talk about enough because it's too new. He's not nostalgic yet, but Taj Burrow was a sight to behold. I mean, he never won a world title, but his surfing was absolutely world class and the best in the world in a lot of respects. And this was when he was at the peak of his powers. Just phenomenal session, phenomenal retelling of the story from Rick. So go see that.
Yeah, you're right. Taj, especially when he first came on, I mean, I think he was like 17. I remember being at the Fiji Pro in 2000 and all the guys, Aki and Luke Egan and all those guys, Danny Wills were sort of the top Aussies. And Tom Carroll was there. And they had brought along Taj. Might have been Taj's first year on tour or something, but he was young. It might have been a second or third year. But point is, they were all pointing to him and going, Scott, watch this guy. And I remember we did a photo shoot at swimming pools, and and it was small little 2 foot, 3 foot swimming pools, and Taj was just blowing crazy airs, like crazy stuff for the year 2000. Everyone's like, okay. And he sort of, I don't, my sense is that he may have been anointed too much too soon.
And that's why he never won a title.
I mean, I can't speak to exactly why he didn't win, but he definitely, for better or for worse, got a lot of stuff like many young surfers get.
Yeah.
Too much too soon. And look, who didn't get too much too soon? Mignot, this guy that we're watching be Rookie of the Year. No one ever heard of him. He was never anointed, and he's hungry, and he's surfing like a professional surfer.
Well, we'll wait and see if he does better than Taj in his career because Taj is still
I'm not saying
top of the
that.
heap.
I'm just saying.
But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I had a funny little story about Taj. I saw him surfing probably around that same time, Huntington Beach, North Side in the summertime. He paddled out like, and he was actually younger, I'd say at that time that I saw him, and he was just freaking like blowing up, like just blew everybody out of the water, right? And I was walking up the beach, and there was a local photographer standing there shooting, and I was like, "You know who that is, right?" And he's like, "No," and I'm like, "That's Taj Burrow." He's like, "I don't know who that is." I'm like, dude, he qualified for tour when he was like 16 or 17, and he turned down his spot because he identified that he was too young and immature. And the photographer laughed at me. He goes, "Yeah, right." I'm like, "No, I swear." He's like, "Nobody turns, if you qualify, you take the spot. It's like the greatest thing in life. You don't turn it down." I'm like, "Bro, I don't know. I was just like a 17-year-old kid, so he didn't trust me, you know? He just thought I was BSing or something, or I didn't know my stuff." I'm like, "Bro, I don't know what to tell you, but that's exactly what happened. Look at him surf, you know?" And turns out that's exactly what happened. He took a year off, kind of continued to develop, and then qualified the following year.
I think he was riding Nevs, right? Back then, wasn't
He
that
was
what?
riding Maurice Coles when I saw him. He had
Okay.
the teddy bear. But you're right, he did end up riding Nevs and then a Firewire as a kind of result of that. But he was riding the teddy bear logo when I saw him.
Well, look, I mean, one of the best stab in the darks was Taj's. That was really good. So
Yeah,
I'm a
Taj
big
is.
fan. I'm a big fan of Taj Burrow, and I think we will all become more and bigger fans of his as you say his legacy ages, and um, yeah.
We'll look back and really appreciate. But anyways, yeah, that's Rick Rafici, the best surfing I've ever seen on Stab Magazine, which is a great series, great ongoing series.
Right on. Well, my Duke is the Surf Aid Cup, which is happening. Um, it may have already happened, but basically up in Santa Cruz, the Big Stick Surfing Coalition or Surfing Club has like like a log contest where you can only ride 60s era longboards, and they do this along with Surf Aid International to raise money for all the good things that Surf Aid does. So the entire crew up there that's raising money for Surf Aid, you guys are all my Duke Kahanamokus.
Do you want to also talk about the auction that's taking place?
Yeah, look, the auction. Um, it's been going live since Saturday night. It's ongoing, the California Gold Surf Auction. There are 48 curated, vetted, vintage collectible surfboards by legendary icons of the shaping canon. Pat Curran, Dale Velzy, Donald Takayama, Skip Fry, Greg Knoll, Mike Diffenderfer, Jeff Ho, McCoy. The list goes on and on. Jerry Lopez. There's just some incredible surfboards that are on the auction block right now. The auction will close Saturday, April 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can download the California Gold Surf Auction app in the App Store and place bids right now or place bids when it closes at 5 p.m. Each lot will close starting with the first lot. They will close consecutively. Lot number one, then lot number two. And the first lot closes at 5 p.m. So that's Saturday, April 19th. But bidding is taking place now. Bidding is quite active. I'm enthused by how much bidding is happening already. Does seem to be a buyer's market. Cash is king right now. And by the way, of those 48 lots, 44 of them are no reserve, which means we're selling these boards no matter what. The final gavel price is the final gavel price. That board will be sold. And, we have $15,000 surfboards right now that have a $2,000 bid on them. So, this is a great time to get your hands on boards shaped by absolute icons. Sadly, many of them passed away already.
Yeah. Awesome. Well done. Good luck. I will be keeping tabs on that, and good show.
Okay, David, until next time, look, adios and aloha.